Welcome back to the Cumby Show. We tell like it is, we don't care how you feel. And Merry Christmas to all you out there. I hope Santa Claus brought everything that you wanted, and you're getting to spend some great time with your family and friends and having a wonderful time here on Christmas. But let's jump into some previews and some predictions of the second round of the college football playoff. We will start with Ole Miss versus Georgia. This is a rematch from the regular season. This game is a Thursday night kickoff at 8 o'clock, January 1st. Hate that this is not a Saturday night game. College football was meant to be played on Saturdays. Saturdays were meant for college football. And I also hate how we're having to wait basically 2 full weeks from the first round to the second round. These games should be played back to back. First weekend, first round. Second weekend, second round. Third weekend, third round. And then finally, you can have the fourth and final weekend. We could have this whole thing wrapped up in a month. But it is what it is. This game, kickoff New Year's Day, 8 o'clock, Orange Bowl. Georgia comes into this game as a 6.5-point favorite. The line, the over-under for this game is 56.5. So they're not expecting this game to be as high scoring as the last one was. This is a rematch, yes. I mean, Georgia nearly put up 50 points by themselves alone in that first one. But Georgia got the win first go around, 43-35. They won by 8 at home in Athens. And let's get into some of those numbers from the first game because I think they're going to be very important in what happens in this game, or at least lend a hand to what I expect. Ole Miss could not stop Georgia offensively. Georgia scored on every single one of their drives except for the last drive, and that's only because they were in victory formation and nailed the ball down. This defense for Ole Miss could not stop this offense for Georgia. Georgia was able to score on every single drive. Now, you flip it over to the other side, Georgia struggled to stop Ole Miss up until late in the fourth quarter, and that was the difference in this game. Their first 5 drives, Ole Miss first 5 drives, they scored a touchdown. Not a field goal, a touchdown on every single one of their first 5 drives. Their last 3 drives, Georgia forced punts. In the very last drive, it was a turnover on downs. That was the difference in that first game. So Georgia, both of these defenses struggled throughout this entire game, where Georgia seemed to get it and figure it out late in the fourth quarter, where Ole Miss just could not. They could not figure anything out on how to stop this Georgia offense. 5 drives for Ole Miss, they scored touchdowns. 7 drives on every single one of Georgia's drives they scored. So obviously, like I said, their last 3 drives for Ole Miss in the first game, they went 3 and out the first 2, and they had a turnover on downs on the last one. Georgia was able to then just get the ball back, nail it, win the game. I think they might have picked up a first down and then nailed it. But let's get into the numbers of the actual team themselves besides the drive chart. Start with Gunnar Stockton. He had himself a day. I think this is probably the best game Gunnar Stockton has had as a Georgia Bulldog. 26 of 31 with a 83.8 completion percentage. 83.8 completion percentage. He passed for 289 yards and averaged 9.3 yards per throw. This man was averaging a first down every time he threw the ball, and he was not missing. He was on time, taking deep shots, on target, in rhythm. 4 touchdowns through the air, 0 interceptions, 0 turnovers, and then he also had himself a touchdown with his legs in the run game. Man counted for 5 touchdowns for Georgia. 5 touchdowns. I believe he scored all 5 of their touchdowns, and the other 2 times that they scored were field goals. They ran the ball. This Georgia team also ran the ball for 221 yards, and they averaged 4.5 yards per carry. And like I said, they did have the one lone rushing touchdown by Gunnar Stockton himself. This offense, this is the best his offense has been all season long, even during the Tennessee game. This was a performance by this offense for Georgia. Flipping it over to the Ole Miss side, yeah, they lost the game, but they themselves had a hell of a day as well. They scored 5 touchdowns on the road against a Georgia defense. But here's what I think. Trinidad Chambliss, 19 of 36, 52.7 completion percentage. That's not good. That is not good at all. And they were throwing the ball a lot on first down. A lot of their passing plays, their yards to gain come from the second and third down. They were getting a lot passing yardage on the second down. 263 yards through the air for this offense for Trinidad Chambliss, 7.3 yards on average per throw, which is pretty good. He did have 1 touchdown, 1 passing touchdown, 0 interception, so they did not turn the ball over. Now, they did have their turnover on downs, but they didn't have an interception or fumble in this first game. They ran for only 88 yards in the first game, and I think that was the difference. Yes, I think the defense came in the second half, but when you run the ball for only 88 yards, you're not going to win many games like that. They did average 3.7 yards per carry and had 4 rushing touchdowns. So a lot of their touchdowns, they got within the red zone and was able to run it in. But when you only run the ball for 88 yards, it's hard to win games like that, no matter what, especially in the SEC, especially when you're playing an SEC defense. You got to be able to run the ball more. And they threw the ball 36 times. 36 times. So what do I think is going to happen in the second game? I will get to my prediction here in a second, but I don't know if either of these two teams are going to be able to replicate the offensive performance that they had in the first game, both Ole Miss and Georgia. Now, I don't think either offense is going to play bad. I think actually both offenses are going to play relatively well, but I don't think they're going to be able to replicate what they did in the first game. We'll start with Ole Miss. Ole Miss concerns going into this game for myself are 2 things. Well, technically 3 things. One, they were without Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin left Ole Miss to take the head coaching job at LSU. No matter what you say, that is going to hurt. That losing that coaching figure, that offensive mind, that offensive play calling is going to hurt you. It is, especially at this late in the game. I think that's very important when you're going up against a Georgia defense that is playing the best they are playing all season long. This defense for Georgia has completely turned it around, and it started in this game in the fourth quarter. Since this fourth quarter, this defense has played lights out. They've given up 7 points to Alabama in the SEC championship game, 9 points against Georgia Tech in Atlanta, when at the time Georgia Tech was the highest scoring offense in the league. They only allowed 9 points. I think they only gave up 10 points to Texas. This defense is on another level. They're playing their best ball right now. So that's concerning to me. I do understand that Ole Miss is, they've got some consistency in the coaching. Pete Golding, the defensive coordinator, he stepped in as the head coach for Ole Miss. And they are also keeping their offensive coordinator, Charlie Weiss Jr., as the play caller. But without Lane Kiffin on the side, you have this type of defense, that is concerning for me for Ole Miss. Secondly, I just mentioned the defense for Georgia is playing absolutely elite on another level than it did the first game. But thirdly, the potential injury to Kawan Lacey, he went down in that Tulane game with what appeared to be a shoulder injury. Now, he did come back into the game, but I don't know if he's 100% healthy. And if you have a running back that is not able to run at their full potential against a defense like Georgia, the way that they're playing now, and you become one-dimensional, that is a recipe for disaster waiting to happen. I hope that he is 100% healthy, but I don't know if he is, especially with the shoulder. I mean, you got to think the shoulder is probably one of the worst injuries for a running back besides their ankle. Because if you can't lower your shoulder and run and take contact, it's going to be hard. It's going to be tough sledding, especially when you only ran for 88 yards the first game. That's got me concerned. That's got me very concerned for this Ole Miss team. And look, I get it. We've all heard it once, twice, 100 times. Everyone says this one line. It's hard to beat a team twice in a single season. I disagree. I don't agree with the statement. What I believe is that it's hard to beat a good team, period. Not once, not twice, not 3, 4, 5 times in a row. It's hard to beat a good team. And both of these teams, Georgia and Ole Miss, are good teams. It's going to be hard for Georgia to beat Ole Miss. It's going to be hard for Ole Miss to beat Georgia. At this point in the playoffs, it's going to be hard for any team in the playoff to beat another team. They're all good. So this whole narrative of, it's hard to beat a team twice in the same season, I don't really agree with that. It only means something to you if you make it mean something. So what do I think in this game? I don't think that either one of these teams are going to be able to replicate what they did on offense with the amount of numbers that they put up. And I believe that this defense for Georgia is playing on another level. They have been so good since this first matchup, and it started in the fourth quarter of this game. I think that this Ole Miss team is going to struggle without Lane Kiffin at the helm. And to give them all the respect to Ole Miss, they've had a phenomenal season, the best season in the university history, in the program history. But I think the run comes to an end here in the Orange Bowl. I think Georgia is going to beat Ole Miss. I think this defense is going to play lights out again. I think they're going to be able to get after Trinidad Chambliss. And I think the concerning part is with Lacey. If he's injured at all and they're not able to run the ball effectively, Georgia is going to own the line of scrimmage. This Georgia secondary has grown up tremendously throughout the season. And I think that they are going to struggle to really get some explosive plays and sustain drives. There's no way that Ole Miss is going to go their first 5 drives scoring touchdowns. They're not. They're not going to replicate that. So I think the defense is going to be the biggest factor in this game, the Georgia defense in this game. And I think Ole Miss is going to be able to put up some numbers. I don't think Georgia's going to completely shut them out. This Ole Miss team is very good that they are still going to be able to put up some numbers. They're not going to be totally shut down. But I'm going to take Georgia. I think they beat Ole Miss. They get the win, the rematch. They win the rematch, the first one and the second one. Kirby Smart is 5-0 in rematches in the regular season. This is about to make it 6-0. Correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments. But I think Georgia gets the win. I think that this game is probably going to be about a 28-21 type game. Maybe Georgia creeps into the 30s with a late field goal or late touchdown, but I think it's going to be around 28-21, maybe 28-24. And that over-under, if Georgia gets into the 30s, I think this game goes over 56.5. If they don't, I think it stays under 56.5. But that's my prediction. Give me dogs to beat Ole Miss to advance to the semifinal round. We'll see who they play in that. But other than that, over and out.